Hey, everybody, welcome back to Hammer Rugby. And if you're a fan of Major League Rugby, as much as I am, I know that you are absolutely thrilled to have the 2020 season finally start. There's been a lot of anticipation and buildup. So let's get into the thick of it. What did I take away from this week? Well, I'm not sure a lot of these are huge shockers, but there's certainly some things to keep our eye on as the season moves forward. So, what are they? Number one, I think the big takeaway from this week, the new kids on the block, three new teams. And you know what? Quite frankly, two of the three did not disappoint. They came through and they proved that the new teams refuse to be doormats. They will be incredibly competitive this season. So we'll touch upon those matches. Number two, if your team isn't moving forward, it's moving backward. I think if anything this week showed is that those guys brought in from overseas, whether it's the big names that carry a lot of cachet or those guys that had some experience playing in Europe and playing in South Africa or Australia, um, they will be critical to this season, and they've added a dynamic that's really important as we go through the 2020 season. And finally, and I'm going to repeat this because it's a repeat from last year, bonus points will be critical. Get them early, get them often. So I'm going to interlace those three themes as we work through breaking down all six matches in week one of Major League Rugby 2020. So it's time to break down the first match of week one in Major League Rugby 2020 action. The opening match took place here in the States on Saturday morning, 11 Central Standard Time, I believe it was, where we saw Houston play against conference foe Colorado. Remember, the conference system is in play this year, and so this is really going to be critical as you look for your team, whichever the team may be, to play conference foes. Those matches will matter just a little bit more than they did last year. And so Houston, in a tight battle, came away with a victory 21-12, although Colorado, remember, Colorado is no longer named Glendale. And in this match, we saw Sam Windsor, the fly half for the Cats, put on quite a performance. But frankly, this is par for the course for Sam. Last year, he was far and away the best player on a really subpar team, and I'm hoping that the Cats can improve their play on the pitch this year and come up to his level. Because if they can, they're really going to flip some of the matchups in the Western Conference as they move throughout the 16 game season. He scored a try. He led with the boot, and unfortunately for the Cats, they missed out on a critical bonus point. Remember, bonus points are going to be key this year because they can make the difference between a team being in the playoff hunt and just missing out of the playoff hunt. All right, so what about the second game of week one of Major League Rugby action? This game featured NOLA Gold against the debutantes, one of the three debutantes, Old Glory DC. And NOLA started this season the same way they started the previous season, just lighting the lamp, putting points on the scoreboard, playing hard and playing fast. And I know my guys down there in the Crescent City, you know what I'm talking about, Benji, Doug, and my guy Adrian, you guys like to see things played hard and fast. I know it. So NOLA came out and played a great game. I think some things stand out about this game. Number one, NOLA gets a critical bonus point and stays at the top of the table, both in the league and in the East. Number two, NOLA scrum put on a clinic. They won 5 penalties. Matt Harmon locked down his side of the scrum coming in. And then another piece of this was the stellar play of Captain America, Eagle 8 man, Cam Dolan. Cam had a great match, scored a hat trick, and that earned him Player of the Week honors from Major League Rugby. And one thing I'd like us to keep our mind on is April 11th. Why? Because 3 players were missing in this match that could be key difference makers come April 11th. For Old Glory DC, it's the Beast, Tendai. He'll certainly make a difference in the scrummage of the OG. And then 2 guys from NOLA. JP Eloff normally plays fullback. He was out this week, little surgery, and wing Nick Feeks. These are two electric players when they're given space. So both those guys were out. Nick was out with visa issues. Both those guys were out. Looking for them to return, all three of those players to return for that April 11th match. Mark that one on your calendar. I think it's going to be one to watch. And the third matchup in Major League Rugby, Week 1 2020 action, featured Atlanta Rugby ATL versus Utah. And you got to keep in mind, Rugby ATL is a debutante this year, one of three new teams. And again, going back to my major point, that this week told us something about these new teams, that they're not going to be pushovers, that they're really going to make a push to be a playoff contender. And ATL did not disappoint in that regard, bringing a victory home 28-19. One of the things to keep in mind is something I pointed to in an earlier episode, and that is continuity counts. Remember that many players in this lineup are made up of players that come from the Life University system, a university system that has produced three D1A national champions. And so that continuity really has come through for them. They were down at least early on in the match at halftime, 16-8, but they didn't give up. They fought back, and they kept going forward on the front foot, and they ultimately snatched victory from defeat in a cross-conference matchup. They scored a bonus point here. Again, they have 5 points just like NOLA and just like the Free Jacks. So they're keeping pace with their conference rivals, which is a critical and important piece for these new teams to be successful this season. In the fourth match of this weekend, New England faced Rooney in Las Vegas. Remember that Major League Rugby wanted to take this game into Vegas to avoid the poor weather. Quite a windy affair, and attendance, quite frankly, was pretty bad. But New England shocked the Major League world by beating Rooney 34-14. And I will say this, the rivalries that the MLR is looking for have begun. Rooney fans fired the first shot by calling New England the Flapjacks, a slap in the face to the Free Jack fans. And then after putting Rooney to task, the Free Jack fans posted a meme using the Roosters publicity photo. Consider shots fired back, folks. So the Jacks scored early, capitalizing on costly mistakes. One of them was a kick down into the Rooney half, hit off the post. It was misplayed, I believe, by Foden and capitalized on and scored by New England. So New England took a 22-7 lead into the sheds, and they continued to snuff out any hopes of a Rooney comeback, scoring 12 more points in the second half and really containing some of the attacking threats from the Roosters. In week 1 featured San Diego versus Seattle. Yeah, this was a rematch of the final last year. And San Diego and Seattle did not disappoint. This was a really close affair. 9 points separated them. San Diego came with a victory, 33-24. Gave Stacey Montgomery something to ring her bell about. But I think there's a couple key factors that led to a San Diego victory. And the biggest, without question, was Ma'anonu. Although he's lost a step from his legendary form with the All Blacks, this guy's vision and ability and skill to get the ball out wide really serves San Diego well. They made some great line breaks that led to scores as a result of his vision. Secondly, J.P. Smith, the scrum half for Seattle, I don't think lived up to his normal standards. He was really off his game, particularly with the box kick. Remember, he and Phil Mack used to switch off quite a bit. So, playing a full game might have thrown off what, his usual standard. And then Villy got a yellow card there at the end. And I don't know if that made a difference, but, discipline is always a key component. Keep your eye on for the rematch that'll be in Seattle. Why? Number one, the Seawolf fans are rabid And in that covered deck, they really make that a tough environment to play in. The second thing, Joe Peterson, he didn't play in this game. And we know from his performance last year that Joe was absolutely fabulous. And to think that he didn't play and San Diego still won is hard to imagine. And lastly, we have to remember that Seawolf fans are hanging this loss and kind of brushing it off. Why? Because in 2018 and 2019, Seattle lost both matches to San Diego, but they still won the championship. So I don't know that Seattle fans are too worried, but certainly the additions that San Diego made to the lineup have to scare teams all over the league. In the final match of Week 1 in Major League Rugby, we saw the Toronto Arrows go down to Bold Stadium to play Austin. And a couple things to keep in mind here. Toronto will be playing, just like last year, all 8 games of the first part of their season on the road, and then they'll play their last 8 games at home, just like last season. But what's interesting to note here is Toronto put a hiding to Austin, 38-10. If I recall, last season Toronto really had fits and starts in those first away 8 away games. They don't seem to be doing that. At least if this first game is any indication, their pack played really solidly. They had a lot of continuity, of course. They really have a roster full of Canadians. Are now in their second season, so again, continuity is coming into the forefront here. So while they kind of worked their way into the playoffs, the latter half of the season last year, look for them to be a much stronger opponent in the Eastern Conference. And it'll be interesting to see if there's any rivalries develop between themselves, New England, and Rooney. So they came away with 5 points, keeps them in the hunt at the top of the table early on here. Another notable piece, we still don't know what a Gilgroni is. Hopefully, we'll find out. I'm sure if you go down and visit Austin and Bold Stadium within a few short weeks, you're going to find out what exactly that Texas-sized cocktail is made of. So what do we have on tap for Week 2 of Major League Rugby action? Well, it's Vegas weekend, baby! That's right. 2 double headers, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. They have 7s and 15s tournaments going on from all the way from youth up to men's and women's club programs. And then built into this are these feature matches. So what do we have on Saturday? New England versus Utah, Austin versus Rooney, and Sunday brings us Houston versus Toronto and Seattle versus DC. The nice things for the Free Jacks and Rooney is that they are staying down there for the week. So look to see how those two teams play as a result of having a full solid week of training together in kind of a mini camp, if you will. Now, the other interesting piece, none of those matches are conference play. And victories are important, so are bonus points, but we really don't see any of those rivalries being fueled with this one. It's just built around a neat concept and this big celebration of rugby at Sam Boyd Stadium. So should be some interesting matchups there. But the ones I'm keeping my eye on are the conference matchups, and they'll take place on Sunday. Colorado is going to play San Diego down there again at Torero. That'll be an interesting match. See if Colorado can pull their pack together and really hold up a fight against what is, if not the best, one of the best teams in Major League Rugby. And then the one I'm going to watch, of course, go gold. I'm watching Rugby Atlanta versus NOLA down there at the gold mine. So this is a great match. This is one of those matchups that I think Major League Rugby is looking forward to as a rivalry that will really be fueled. And my folks down there in NOLA, again, Doug, Benji, Adrian, they have a saying, and that saying is NOLA stands for no one likes Atlanta. So look for this matchup to continue to fuel the rivalry fire, and it should be a really excellent match to watch. It is going to be the feature match on CBS Sports Network, so check it out and enjoy Week 2 of Major League Rugby.